What's up, beautiful people of the internet? I'm Wesley.
I'm Steph.
So Wes and Steph. Today, guys, we're reacting to Spinebreaker explained by a Korean.
You're really excited for this. Was heavily recommended. If you guys don't know, over on our Patreon, we're working through all of the albums from the beginning
In chronological sequence.
And this is one of the key pieces that goes along with explaining some of the music from that era. And so we've been exploring everything from this time period. So we're deep diving with you guys today. We're very excited. Let's go.
Spinebreaker. What a strong title name. For new armies or casual listeners that don't look into the lyrics that much, the title might be a little misleading or misunderstood in the way of maybe BTS crushing their haters' spines. I doubt that anybody would actually think like that. But still, without knowing the Korean cultural references behind the story, this song is a little bit hard for foreigners to fully comprehend.
So before we start, I think our interpretation of the song was that it's talking about like breaking your parents.
After reading the lyrics.
Yeah, after reading the lyrics. Is like being a burden on your parents and leeching off of them in order to look like you got a lot of money, right?
Like literally you are breaking your parents back because they've been carrying you your whole life and you're still being materialistic and spending on things that don't really matter.
Yeah, that's kind of the overall what we got out of it. I'm curious to see what he says.
Extremely expensive shoes, padding jackets, and watches. These are all everyday objects that students use in their daily lives. Education is going up the mountain, students are also going up the mountain. Going up the mountain is a Korean idiom called 사공이 많으면 배가 산으로 간다, which is translated into too many cooks spoil the broth. So basically, BTS is trying to criticize the students alongside with the Korean education system that both parties are going in the wrong direction.
Interesting.
These lines express what school looks like these days in a nutshell. Rich students and poor students can be identified by whether they have expensive clothes or not. For students who cannot afford these expensive clothes, they'll do whatever they can to get their hands on these particular brands or clothes. BTS now tries to...
I didn't realize it was so focused on students.
Yeah, I didn't either. I thought it was just like broadly speaking.
Yeah, much
the
more
youth.
broad.
Well, I guess youth focused, but I didn't realize it was like students, which makes sense because in US that's the dynamic that you don't get it. It sounds like it's not quite as extreme, but because in US usually public schools are done by area and location.
Yeah.
So it's less common that you have a wide disparity in how much money kids have in a given high school. But when it does happen, that often creates like a really hardcore social dynamic where there's some kids who have like the designer stuff at school and there's some who don't, and it's just haves and has nots like instantly.
We definitely did it at my school. It was a big deal if you were wearing Hollister and Abercrombie, and then if you were a rich girl, you would have like a Chanel purse. And I looked up the Chanel purse. I was like, there is no way in heck I'm ever convincing my parents to get me one of those. And the Hollister Abercrombie clothes, my parents, they said, okay, you can have those clothes, but you have to pay the difference in the cost for like normal kid clothes, like what you would get at like your Walmart, right? And then anything above that, I would have to pay for.
Yeah.
So I didn't break my parents' spines. I just broke my own spine because it was outrageous.
But the clothes that they're talking about,
they're like Supreme.
They're taking about that on like steroids,
yeah,
right?
We're not
Hollister
talking.
And Abercrombie's like a little more expensive.
We're not talking back in the day before inflation. We're not talking like the difference in $30 versus $60 jeans. We're talking about like $30 versus $1,000
or something.
Jeans.
Yeah.
The conscience of these students about their behavior trying to get expensive apparel, how they're sensitive towards trends and appearance, and how they whined and begged and asked their parents again and again to buy them these expensive clothes. Finally, the word spinebreaker appears. The phrase spinebreaker comes from the Korean idiom 등골이 휘다, which literally means your back gets bent.
Oh, because you work so much.
Usually, hard physical labor is done by bending your back. Thus, if you work too much, your spine would permanently become bent. So, BTS is calling kids who beg their parents to buy them expensive clothes spinebreakers. Not only the kids, but certain
Oh,
items
whoa.
themselves are now officially called Spinebreakers because parents need to work so hard to afford these
It's all,
items.
you see, it's all North Face?
Yeah, North Face
It's
jackets.
North Face jackets.
So we're not even talking about. We thought it was like the really
I thought it was like,
expensive
yeah,
stuff.
I thought it was the hypey style stuff or
They're
the
like
designer style
all
stuff.
matching. Every single one has one.
Yeah.
And I can also see if you were the one kid who didn't have that, when you were in like a area like this where everyone's wearing it, that's a lot of pressure.
So these so-called Spinebreaker kids don't care how hard their parents try to provide them food or necessities, but rather pester their parents by saying, "But all of my friends have it too." But why specifically padded jackets? It's because students in Korea wear school uniforms, but in the winter it gets too cold, so the most convenient body warmer would be a padded jacket. A few years ago, the padded jacket market wasn't that diverse, and particular brands were lead brands in the industry,
Canada
such
Goose.
as the notorious North Face. These padded jackets had and still do have an extremely high price. The average price range would go from $500 to $1,000.
Really?
It even had ranks in the paddings, depending on how much duck down was inside. But nowadays, it's no longer about particular brands and clothing. The spine breaking has evolved and expanded into products such as smartphones. So obviously, the luxurious clothing was a
That's interesting because they do all wear school uniforms. So like,
Yeah.
what are you allowed to wear? What are you allowed to bring yourself? I'm allowed to bring my own jacket. I'm allowed to bring my own phone.
Maybe a
I'm allowed to
bag.
bring my own watch.
Yeah, watch,
right?
bag.
Whatever is like the thing you
Customizable.
Because people say that like uniforms help get rid of this. It's just it becomes like even more specific,
Yeah.
right?
And I know in UK that they do the jackets are a big deal in UK also. Like what jacket you wear, it says a lot about like what social class you're trying to be in, and it's just like one of the main ways because it's cold there, and they also usually have uniforms in their schools.
That's interesting.
To parents that were not in the position to afford it, but nevertheless their kids demanded them to buy it. So that's why the last lyric says, rather than filling your jacket with duck down, fill your head first with some common sense or conscience before it's too late.
He started just being a banger of a song.
It's a sick song.
The chorus is literally BTS being satirical about the kids that feel good and feel swag in their dirty clothes. It's dirty clothes because they earned it in a dirty way, not by earning the money themselves, but by breaking their parents' backs. The expression that the dirty clothes will tighten up your heart means that eventually the kids will feel guilty and bad about wearing their clothes. In the second verse, BTS disses the kid haters. 배가 부르다 means that you have it easy and you have no worries of getting food in your mouth. Kids have their bellies full all due to their parents. Thus, they don't know how to do anything but to just feed on provided food. But they're being nosy and saying things that they wouldn't be able to say in front of the actual person, bluffing. You'll only be satisfied when the whole population of Korea dresses the same as you. This is satire against how kids think wearing the same things look cool. RM then goes on by saying, mind your own business, fashion, and life. When RM's voice changes into a comical version, he is impersonating and mocking the kids by imitating what they would actually say, such as, "But I want it so much, what should I do? Friends poorer than me even have it. If I don't want to be an outcast, I need to buy it. At this age, we're all supposed to be like this."
Yes, I'm loco. They said no. I know they ain't cheap, but they got mochos. 뻔한 내 할 일은 잘해 부모님 듣고 안 부셔. 진짜 플레이거든 나이 먹고 아직도 방구석 and no.
RM says people might call him crazy or a no-no and criticize him for wearing expensive clothes. But he also points out that at least he's attractive, and most of all, he's not a spinebreaker that begs for his parents to buy him clothes. The last line is the killing point of the song. The real spinebreaker is you, who's still in the corner of your room at that age. Which means you can't do anything by yourself, so why don't you just shut up and respect your parents by helping them not suffer by paying your stupid padding jacket.
와우 기분 좋아 걸쳐보는 너의 dirty clothes 넌 뭔가 다른 rock'n'rollin' swag alone
I think it's interesting because I didn't realize how targeted it was at students specifically. I think we picked up on the overall theme, but we missed the part about the students, and we missed like obviously the pictures of everybody wearing the same thing.
And we didn't. I don't think we understood how like. How would I say it? Because in U.S. there's pictures like this, but there's even in the pictures where they're like, ha ha ha, look at all the girls wearing the same thing.
Yes, we've
or
seen
ha ha
that.
ha, look at all the bros wearing the same thing.
There's one that's classic from my time where everybody looks like they're dressed like Han Solo with boots, riding boots,
Yeah, riding
and then
boots
the
and
vest,
the vest.
the puffer vests, and then the skinny jeans. And I'm like, this is from when I was younger, and they all look identical, and they're like Han Solo look, and it's true because kids, and then you all show up and you all look exactly the same, and
but there was more variety even in that.
Yeah.
In those types of trends, I think,
Than
than
in
like
the
the
pictures
specific.
we saw here.
Yeah, puffer jacket stuff.
Yeah, the pictures we saw here were crazy. It's interesting that because BTS is speaking so much of their music to students and to the younger generation, and so much of it is like hey, throw off the system and all the pressure that's on you to be this like perfect student and go chase your dream, and so many of their other songs. So this one is interesting because the others were so like uplifting of the students. This one's like a criticism to them too.
Or it's like, hey, you should have a dream. Don't let the system bring you down.
Yeah.
But they didn't mix that with an anti-parent message.
Yes.
Because Spinebreaker's like, no, you need to respect your parents.
Yeah.
And make sure that you're not being a burden to them.
Yes.
Which usually in U.S., if you have kind of like a rebellious, like, we're gonna fight the system.
Yeah. It's like,
it's
screw
not
your parents.
uncommon to be like, I hate my mom.
Yeah.
I hate my dad.
Yeah.
I hate my town. You know what I mean? And it's interesting that it's such a, it's not that. It's like, hey, you should have a dream and you should respect your mom and your dad and don't be materialistic. They're working very hard for you.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
It's a
I like that
really
message.
healthy message.
Yeah.
It's so healthy.
I wonder what it would be like in South Korea because I feel that there's a lot that's just different in the school culture.
Yeah.
Like super, super different to the point that it's difficult for us to even kind of like imagine what it would be like to be a teenager in that environment, just from some of the K-dramas that we've watched. And we haven't seen a ton that are set in high schools, but we've seen one or two.
Yeah.
And the vibe just seems very, very different from U.S. schools. And even if it's kind of like an exaggerated version, even the exaggerated version is very different than the exaggerated version of U.S. schools.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because I'm like, if this was in the U.S., because there were things that like I would want, and your parents I thought had a pretty good solution. Like, oh, if you want to, pay for it, that's cool. My parents were just like, oh, if you think that you need this stuff to be cool, then you're just not cool anyways. So the problem's you. That's what my parents told me.
Really?
Yeah, and it didn't work. Now as a grown-up, I think that they're right. Because like there were definitely kids at my school who didn't follow the conventional rules for coolness. But everyone just like thought they were admirable because they were either just like good looking or smart or very sociable or good at sports or like, but we thought they were cool because of those things. And so then when they didn't follow the social conventions, no one cared because they were still those things.
Yeah.
And so my parents were just like, skill diff, get good, loser, when I wanted this stuff. And that's true, but I'm curious because from an American-centric standpoint, I feel like that would normally be true, but you also have to be like exceptional.
Yes. I do think that there is that universality though of like the conformity of the teenager that wants to be like their peers and very much wants to fit in and not be different and wants the same thing that the cool kids have.
Yeah. Oh, I felt that way. I felt that way. I'm saying though, it's interesting because like I felt that way, but I can think of examples of people that I also thought were very cool.
Yeah.
And they almost just decided to be like, no.
Don't care.
And then no one held them to that standards. You know what I'm saying?
I'm trying to think through my high school, and obviously I can only really evaluate the girls because I wasn't really paying attention to the guys and what they're.
Maybe
what
it's
their
different
standards
guys,
were.
girls. Maybe it's also just different guys, girls. Different game, different rules, maybe.
I don't know. It was definitely a lot of pressure though, and now I'm a parent, so now I'm like, I'm like psyching myself up for it because I know that this is something that we're gonna have to figure out. How do you communicate that to your kids? And I think it's even worse and more exaggerated because of social media.
Oh, that's true. So it's not even like your school. It's the entirety of social media.
Yes.
And generally it'll be like, I don't know, the son of a billionaire or the daughter of a billionaire
is making content.
And they've got like, I've got all this Birkin bags or whatever.
It's going to be so much worse.
That's interesting.
And the other thing that's going to be, I think, bad is that there's so many brand deals. And I think that the brand deals from the influencers will kind of like that'll become the cool thing because all the influencers have, you know how like if you're following a certain group of people and then like 10 of these influencers have it, you're like, oh well, they all have it, so it's a cool thing. It's because they all got paid.
Yeah,
you know what I mean. But that then
so they're just paying for cultural consensus.
The thing, the thing to get. And I see it. My big thing I follow is interior decorating, and so they'll be like, you'll see all the influencers have these like one type of rug. And it's like one brand of rug, and you're like, oh, I guess this is what everybody's buying, and you don't even think, oh, there's other options out there. You're just that's the option.
I saw a video that it was a really kind of cute video of triplets that were walking, and they were probably about 9.
Yeah.
And something that really, really surprised me is in U.S. this is kind of weird, but there's this trend of luxury water bottles.
Yeah.
And these water bottles, they get quite expensive.
Yeah.
And like we're talking $100 or $150 for water bottles. And all 3 of these triplets had these giant adult size luxury water bottles coming out from school. And that wasn't the point of the video, but I just remember seeing that and I was like, that's so weird, because it was like, you know, the high school girls that you were talking about had these bags.
Yes.
And I was looking around and like almost all these kids had these water bottles. So I was like, oh, okay, so this is like it's a social status accessory, and but it's a water bottle. Because that's what, the school probably banned bags. Yeah. They're like, oh, wow, this is causing a problem. So then all the students are like, haha, well, I have to show that I'm social status a different way. So they literally started bringing like $200 water bottles to school. And these were 9-year-olds. Isn't that crazy?
That's too much.
It's crazy. Much. But we love you guys. Thank you so much for watching. I really enjoyed this video.
I respect BTS so much for making a song, because they could have they were risking alienating their audience, right?
Yeah.
By criticizing them. And I just think it's really cool that they saw a problem and they're like, hey, I'm going to make a song about it. I like that.
I really like that too. I was trying to think. I was trying to imagine, like, if I was a spine breaker, would you be able to realize you're a spine breaker while you're breaking a spine?
Probably
you see
not.
What I'm saying?
You'd probably just think, oh, this applies to everybody else. Doesn't apply to me.
I'm
takes
curious.
a lot of
Well, hey,
reflection.
with how many people listen to it, if just 1 in like 10,000 realized it, that's still massive.
That's so huge.
That's I mean, millions and millions of people heard it, right?
That's true.
I was just trying to think, because like teenagers can be very psychotic.
Yeah.
Like I was a brat.
Yeah.
I don't like teenagers.
I think that takes a certain level of self-reflection to realize that a message applies to you, because that's not intrinsically your first reaction.
Yeah.
To think, oh, I'm the problem.
You're like, wow, those people suck. Anyways, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you want to protect, like, your whole ego wants to protect your own self-image.
Yeah.
So I was just trying to imagine, but like you said. And maybe it prepped them to realize it as they got older. As they got a little bit older, they're like, oh, because I've had that happen to me where I hear something and I don't realize that it applies to me
until later.
And then like a couple months, couple years later, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
So it is actually helpful to hear something, even if it doesn't make you instantly change your behavior.
I'm curious if the song did any disruption.
Yeah,
if it
like
changed anything.
Were there ramifications? Did the puffer jackets like become less cool?
Yeah.
Was there a group of army that was like, no, you know?
Was there a group that was like, you're a spine breaker?
Oh, and then it could be bad to be perceived as a spine breaker.
Yeah,
but that might actually stratify things more.
Yeah,
because that's the only thing that's kind of a downside is a spine breaker inherently has to be a kid whose parents are from more modest means.
Yeah.
So then, what if that be
I don't know.
You see what I'm saying?
Know. Kids will twist anything.
Anything.
Okay. Well,
dude, it feels like we're in an arms race with our hypothetical future teenage children, because we have 2 kids that are younger right now,
but we've already lost.
I know. We always jump 10 years in the future, and it always feels like, oh no matter what we do, the children will twist it.
I'm so scared for the pressure to get them cell phones. That's the one I'm the most like afraid of.
Don't worry, by then we'll have AI assistants. We'll just have androids roaming around. Don't worry, they can take the calls. It'll be good.
Okay.
We love you guys. Oh, and if you want to see our full reaction to BTS's early albums, I'll have it linked in the description down below. So check it out. We love you guys.
We've done the first 4 already.
Yeah,
We're sailing through them.
It's been so much fun.
Oh, and we just started reacting to
Kian's
Bizarre
B&B.
Yes.
Which lives up to its name. We've done 1 episode, and I can tell you, accurate titling is very accurate. We love you guys. I will see you next time. So, bye.
Bye.